it's Zach again. Now, so clearly I'm always looking like I'm trying to center myself, but hey, we all do. However, I did come up with a strategy about 10 years ago to help with the process. I'd like to share it with you. I call it divide and balance. And don't worry, it's none of that spiritual new age crap. It's just a basic mnemonic tool to help come to awareness with where your balance is right now. That sounds new age spiritual shit. Let me try to say this in a different way. It's just a mental model that helps you identify where you are in your headspace and where you would like to go. To use it is simple, and I'm going to explain how. You start with any old concept. It could be, spending time with others, being open with your feelings, just really anything whatsoever. You just take any old concept and you stretch it into a spectrum. I'm going to start with the concept of simplicity because that's really what I designed it for initially. So on one end you have the simple, and on one end you have the complex. And every notch in between that scale is a point that you can possibly be, right? And you, yourself, you're this little fulcrum, that little triangle thing on a seesaw, and you pick a place on that scale to center it. Wait, hold on. At any given time, you have somewhere in your headspace. With simplicity, on the one hand, you have the abstract, and on the other, you have the unbearably simple. And if things are just too simple, you just need to break free of these constraints and get into something that is more vague, that's more ambiguous, that's not defined. I spend a lot of time there. So the two sides of this scale are going to tell you where you are, or just what you're feeling. If the simple side of this seesaw is digging down too deep, then you're craving it. And if the abstract side is digging down too deep, then you're craving it. So what do you do if this abstract side is pulling down, saying, I need abstraction, I need to break free of this, these tight molds of this is exactly how, break free of these bounds of simplicity into something more ambiguous, something with room for you to explore where you're trying to go. Well, the abstract side of the seesaw is weighing you down, so you take your fulcrum and you push it to the abstraction. And when you do that, it'll change the way that the weight is going, and it'll actually level that out for you, just a little bit. And sometimes you might feel like it is just too chaotic, like I just need to tone it down, I just want to drink my tea, I just want to sit here, and I want everything just to make sense. Your simple side is begging for you, it's pulling down, there's weight over on this side, and if you just push your fulcrum over toward the simple, then you will soon find that you have gone toward the simplicity. Now, the tricky thing with this concept, the big thing that you really have to consider is that there is no such thing as simple, and there is no such thing as abstract. They are directions on a never-ending scale. My spot of simplicity, or my spot where my fulcrum is right here, if you're over here somewhere on this scale, then you're going to look over to me and be like, why are you making everything so simple? It's more complicated than that. And I'll be looking over at you like, actually, you're way overcomplicating it. And at any given time, our preferences can change. Just because I'm pushing my scale over to the simple right now does not mean that that's where I always am. The more time I spend over here on the simple, the more that this abstraction is going to start craving and weighing down. And as that happens, if I'm mindful of these competing pressures, then I can push my fulcrum there and just keep wobbling it back and forth as the pressures dictate. And in the end, I find myself a little bit of balance. I find myself a little bit centered. And it's not just making things too simple or too abstract. It's also things like spending time being happy versus letting yourself be upset. Underthinking things versus overthinking things. Spending time with other people versus withdrawing from other people. Every type of concept, if you're just mindful about it, you can split it into a spectrum and you can find that pivot and you can recalibrate yourself minute to minute, and you no longer have to tell yourself, oh, I'm just a simple kind of guy, or no, I'm a abstract, complicated kind of guy. Sometimes we put ourselves in these buckets, like the Myers-Briggs indicator, like you say, oh, I'm these 4 letters, and that's exactly what I am. But sometimes that's not healthy, because what if you want to be one kind of person one day, or one moment, and then another kind of person the next day, or the next moment? Maybe if you spend too much time in that one little headspace, then all of these pressures will be weighing on you, and you won't even really know what's wrong. So I'm introducing you to this concept of divide and balance, and I hope that you can be mindful with it and learn more about these competing pressures that you're facing in your own life, and maybe you can find balance. Center yourself, Zach. But one more tip. If you even apply the concept of balance itself to the divide and balance, you'll soon find an interesting point, a non-obvious point. To keep things in constant balance is actually not even in balance. To keep that scale perpetually level, you're probably losing out on something. But if you keep even balance in balance, if you let the scales tip one side or another just to get your fix on one thing or another, then I feel that you can get an even higher state of balance, because people have to have these binges or these extremes or just a little bit of excess of one thing or another until the chords of just until we get our senses and say, okay, I'm fulfilled, I'm satisfied, and you can reorient yourself to that level of balance. And this is the reason why a lot of people who say, oh, I'm going to eat super healthy all the time, and it might go okay for a little while, but eventually you find yourself craving just an extreme, an excess. And I'm telling you, go for it, baby. Just enjoy it. Have that excess, and keep the excess in balance as well. And soon you will find yourself a little bit more centered, but not in a weird way. So, there you have it. And, yeah, oh, I guess we're all confused, so let's just go on to the next thing.